Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Harakakadash, double honors to the apostles and elders, great most on rule well, and Shalom to the brothers doing the work of Syrian truth. Got this article on Psychology Today. It said, why are so many young men single and sexless? And yeah, it's become more and more kind of spoken about. Essentially, how I think they said most young men now aren't even having sex, and it's I think it's increasing for women as well. But it's kind of a thing where everyone's been put off it. There's so many alternatives, mainly with like pornography. Like the porn industry essentially is there as a kind of something that can be used to essentially push, like, put off having to go out and find a woman. And that's something that's been maximized with an Esau's rule. But, I'll read a bit, it kind of goes into it. So it says, recent Pew research indicates 60% of young men are currently single. Sexual intimacy is at a 30-year low across genders. Gen Z men are excessively turning to porn to satiate sexual needs, with long-term consequences to their sexual health. Young men must reprioritize. Okay, well. So this is a recent Pew Research study suggests a tectonic shift in dating and sex lives, in the dating and sex life of men. The study found that among men under 30 years old, over 60% are single, almost double that of women in the same age bracket. So yeah, most women, well, even most women, it's still in like younger women. They're having way more engagements than the men, because there's various issues that are hitting the men. It's funny because someone like Andrew Tate essentially is got a career off the back of them troubles that men have been having. So it says not only are more young men single, but their opportunities for developing a relationship and sexual repertoire have all but vanished, as levels of sexual intimacy across genders appear to have hit a 30-year low. So yeah, it's essentially looking cold as hell for a lot of men out here. And these things are just what's compounding within society. They're just, and you have it manifesting as well, because the way men are engaging, they're just completely jaded. A lot of the younger generation, they ain't really looking to play ball, because as far as they're seeing it, there's no reason to engage. So it says things are not what they once were. Heterosexual men, from elder millennials to boomers, traverse young adulthood at a time when sexual intimacy was a common pathway towards attachment, with women actively seeking a romantic partner. Men would reliably depend on women's disproportionate investments in emotional and sexual attachment. Traditional masculine gender scripts with a tendency towards avoidance of attachment were suboptimal but functional in a consolation. It says, however, the pandemic disrupted the status quo in college-age daters and accelerated women's prioritization from intimacy and towards academic, professional, and financial goals. So yes, again, like the pandemic lockdowns having a tangible impact, on the world. Because that's it's funny. A lot of things got pushed through, and it's you know changed things up to where a lot of things are not gonna go back to how they previously were. They'll just now be like, nah, I'm just gonna engage with um, you know, how and wherever I am. Um, so like my mind slipped. But yeah, a lot of men are more or less, departing from dealing with a system, and it's because of the times that are coming, and really with the generation that we're currently dealing with. Because why? Now, when um, everything's coming to an end, and as far as for the average Joe, everything's getting fucking out there. So I read this. Jeremiah 31:22, it says, how long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding daughter? For the Lord Jehovah hath created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man. So yeah, that's that new thing. What? A woman basically getting a prominence within the society over, the extent, no, at the expense of men. So rather than having men, rule, well, essentially having to set up a society you basically had from the ancient world to like the 1920s, and then really picking up with like what was it, second wave feminism in the 60s. Since then, women they've had the liberty then as well. Uh, I went back. Oh, wish I can pass a man. Is Daniel. Oh yeah. Daniel 7:25, and it says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand unto the time and times and the dividing of times. So yeah, Esau essentially thinking to change times and laws. That's something he succeeded at. He's basically set up a whole different system of rule, which you have, on a local level, but you also have international law and whatnot, and these things were enforced, through the power of Esau's military economy, whatever the means. And that's why. And, these things allow everything to flip on its head to where you have, that ancient order done away with. Okay. So Isaiah 3 and 12, it says, "As for my people, children are their oppressors and women rule over them." So it's funny now seeing it happen on like a worldwide scale where men all over basically especially in the West, essentially in the Western world, that the traditional role of a man as like the central pillar of a household, that's one that's being done away with. It has been getting worked on for a while, and now let's say a woman shall compass a man, because that it happening with Jake. It links up with what went down in slavery of the Willie Lynch. Basically, how to perpetuate a system of women ruling men to keep them broken, but you know um now we can see it's basically hit you know it's hit its full power. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err and destroy the way of thy paths. Yeah, and that's why even Esau's got the rule. What he's enacted the same thing. He's been pushing that folly, which in the end ain't gonna work out. Revelation 21 and 3, and it says, "And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of the Most High is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people." Yeah, so as far as for men of Israel, essentially those of the elect, they're going to be roused, man. They're going to come back into that correct spirit where they'll have that ruling class mentality and mindset to operate within the truth, man. Because essentially, with society now, you're more or less indoctrinated into the so-called modern viewpoint of strong independent women and whatnot, and that's a big part of what batters down the younger generation, because manhood's looked at as something deadly, dangerous, but that's who the Yahweh Shem Yahushua is dealing with. There's a reason why men are built to take on these roles. Because we'll say Isaiah 32 and 2, and it says, "And a man shall be as a hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as a shadow of a great rock in a weary land." So the men are essentially going to be that covering, that protection, that cloak, that shield, for women. They're basically going to be the ones to, provide that cover, which is, why, men are key and essential, and there's a reason why there's differences between them as well. Finish on this. Isaiah 32, Isaiah 13. Wait. But yeah, Isaiah 13 and 12, and it says, "And I'll make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than a golden wedge of Ophir." So yeah, the men of this truth, basically being refined, even far beyond, just, society set up in a certain spot. Even if you make them aware that, golden wedge of Ophir. Well, yeah, even if you make them aware, it's only for the elect. And they're going to be the ones who are basically going to be drawn through the fire the third part that's drawn through the fire to be refined to that fine gold. And it's like, it's funny, all these studies basically showing, men aren't engaging with society. Because why? They basically threw away that traditional role for men. So now it's just everything's up in a mist of confusion. And that essentially results in, what you see, where it's non-stop madness and men are, ain't even able to function as society previously did. Because why? You've had that extra layer of confusion laid onto them, even from 10, 12, 15 years ago. Right? It's because now is the time where you have a lot of weak men, and when these troubles go down, they ain't gonna make it, man. And that's how they really set up, man, not to make it. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom. Yeah, Shalom.